He invited his childless ex-wife for his baby shower to humiliate her, and she showed up with triplets. The champagne glass slipped from Tessa's perfectly manicured hand, shattering against the stone patio in slow motion. Holden Pierce felt his knees buckle as he stared at the 3 small boys holding his ex-wife's hands. Every guest in the garden had gone silent. 60 faces turned toward the entrance where Sloane stood, elegant and calm, flanked by 3 identical copper-haired children, with eyes the exact shade of amber that marked every Pierce for generations. "Holden," Sloane said, her voice steady and clear in the sudden quiet. "Tessa, thank you for the invitation. I hope you don't mind. I brought my sons. The babysitter canceled last minute." Tessa's voice came out strangled, barely above a whisper. "Your sons?" Sloane smiled, and it was the kind of smile that could cut glass. "Yes. This is Beckett, and this is Griffin, and this is Callum. Boys, can you say hello to everyone?" 3 small voices rang out in perfect unison. "Hello." The smallest one, his eyes wide and curious, stepped forward and looked directly at Holden. His question cut through the garden like a knife through silk. "Are you our daddy? You look like us. You have the same chin and the same eyes." Sloane placed a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder, but her gaze never left Holden's face. "Yes, sweetheart. This is your biological father." She paused, letting the words sink in, letting every single person at that baby shower absorb what she was about to say. "From our last round of IVF treatment. The one we completed right before he decided I was too defective to keep. Have you ever been invited somewhere just so someone could watch you suffer? Have you ever been discarded by someone who told you that you weren't enough, that you had failed at the most basic human function, that you were broken beyond repair? What would you do if that same person invited you to celebrate the exact thing they said you could never give them?" The invitation had arrived on heavy cardstock, embossed with silver rattles and pastel ribbons. "No hard feelings, right?" That's what the note said, as if 5 years of pain, humiliation, and abandonment could be wrapped up in 3 casual words. But here's what Holden Pierce didn't know. Here's what his new wife Tessa didn't know. Here's what 200 of Silicon Valley's wealthiest guests were about to discover on a sunny May afternoon in Palo Alto. The childless ex-wife wasn't childless at all. She had 3 sons, triplets. 3 identical boys with Holden's distinctive features stamped across their faces like a signature he couldn't deny. 3 years old. 3 years of birthdays and first words and scraped knees and bedtime stories. 3 years of life that Holden had missed entirely because he'd been too busy building his perfect new life to wonder if that final fertility treatment had actually worked. The invitation said no gifts necessary. But Sloane brought 3 anyway. 3 gifts that would destroy everything Holden Pierce had built. 3 gifts that would teach him the most expensive lesson of his life. You can't humiliate someone who knows their worth. Before we dive deep into this story, I need to know you're with me. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city in the comments, or just type "I'm with you, Mr. Hearthline," so I know you're here for this journey. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story about revenge. It's a story about consequences, about growth, about what happens when someone who threw away a diamond realizes too late what they had. If you love stories about karma, justice, and second chances, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is your home for real talk about life's hardest lessons. Now let's rewind. Let's go back to where this all started. 3 days before that baby shower. 3 days before Holden's perfect world imploded in front of everyone who mattered. The invitation sat on Sloane Hartley's kitchen counter like a grenade with the pin half pulled. She'd read it 4 times now, each reading making her angrier and then, strangely, calmer. The elegant script mocked her with its false warmth. Join us in celebrating the upcoming arrival of baby Pierce. Below, in handwriting that could only belong to Tessa, was a personal note that made Sloane's jaw clench. "Sloane, it would mean so much if you could attend. After all, you're part of Holden's history, and we want to celebrate with everyone who's been on his journey. No hard feelings, right? No hard feelings." As if 5 years of marriage, 4 years of fertility treatments, 7 miscarriages, and a divorce filed 3 weeks after their last failed IVF cycle could be summarized as a journey with no hard feelings. Sloane's phone buzzed on the counter. Her sister Kennedy. The text was all capital letters. Please tell me you are not actually considering going to that travesty. Sloane picked up her phone and typed back slowly. Oh, I'm going. Trust me. Kennedy's response was immediate. Are you insane? He's only inviting you to rub your face in it. He gets the baby, the new wife, the perfect life. You get to smile and pretend it doesn't gut you. What could you possibly gain from putting yourself through that? Sloane glanced toward the living room where she could hear the muted sounds of a children's show playing. 3 small voices occasionally broke into giggles. She typed carefully. Things have changed. It's time Holden knew exactly how much. Her phone rang instantly. Kennedy didn't wait for hello. What things? What are you talking about? Sloane walked to the kitchen doorway and looked into her living room. 3 identical boys sat cross-legged on the carpet, absorbed in animated dinosaurs dancing across the television screen. Beckett sat in the middle, naturally taking charge even in stillness. Griffin held a picture book in his lap, only half watching the screen. Callum leaned against the couch, his thumb near his mouth, a habit he was slowly breaking. I'm talking about the fact that I'm not the childless failure Holden thinks I am, Sloane said quietly into the phone. I'm talking about introducing him to his sons. The silence on Kennedy's end stretched for 5 full seconds. Then, in a whisper, oh my God, you're really going to do it. You're going to bring the boys. I am. Sloane. Kennedy's voice was careful now, protective. Are you sure about this? Once you do this, you can't take it back. His whole life will change. Your life will change. The boys' lives will change. They deserve to know their father, Sloane said. And Holden deserves to know what his cruelty cost him. She paused, watching Beckett push Griffin playfully, both boys erupting into laughter. Besides, this isn't about revenge. This is about truth. I've carried this secret for 3 years, Kennedy. 3 years of raising triplets alone while he built his perfect life with a woman 7 years younger than me. A woman who got pregnant within 6 months of dating him. Do you know what that felt like? I can't even imagine. Every time I saw their engagement photos, their wedding announcement, I thought about telling him. Every birthday party for the boys, every Christmas morning, every milestone. But I couldn't, because when I found out I was pregnant, he'd already moved on. He'd already made it clear that I was defective, that I was broken, that any reminder of our fertility struggles was something he wanted to erase. Sloane's voice cracked slightly, and she steadied herself. He told me, Kennedy. He sat across from me in our doctor's office after our 7th miscarriage and told me he couldn't waste any more of his prime years on a woman who couldn't perform the most basic female function. Those were his exact words. Basic female function. He's a monster, Kennedy said flatly. He was cruel, Sloane corrected. But maybe not a monster. Just a man who measured his worth by all the wrong things. She watched as Callum stood up and toddled over to the toy box, pulling out a small red truck. Anyway, it doesn't matter now. The boys are 3 years old. They ask about their daddy constantly. I show them pictures of Holden. I've never spoken badly about him to them, even though I had every right to. They know they have a father who lives far away. They know he has red hair like them and works with computers. But they don't know he has no idea they exist, Kennedy finished. Exactly. And on Saturday, at his baby shower in front of all his friends and family and colleagues, that's going to change. After Kennedy hung up, still uncertain but supportive, Sloane made one more call. To Dr. Nina Okafor, the therapist who'd helped her piece herself back together after the divorce. They had an emergency session scheduled for the next morning. Dr. Okafor's office was a sanctuary of calm. Soft gray walls, comfortable chairs, a diffuser releasing lavender into the air. Sloane had spent dozens of hours in this room, working through grief and anger and eventually acceptance. Tell me what you're feeling about this baby shower, Dr. Okafor said, her dark eyes perceptive and kind. Vindicated, Sloane said immediately. Then she paused, surprised by her own honesty, and terrified. Terrified of what? Of Holden's reaction, of everything changing again. Sloane twisted her hands in her lap, a nervous gesture she thought she'd overcome. For 3 years, I've built this life. A good life. I went back to school, finished my doctorate in environmental engineering. I got a position at Westbrook University doing research I actually care about. I've raised 3 incredible children completely on my own, with help from my family. I've healed. Dr. Okafor leaned forward slightly. But part of me, a part I'm not proud of, wants him to see what he missed. Sloane met her therapist's eyes. I want him to see what he threw away when he decided I was defective. Is that terrible? Does that make me vindictive? It makes you human, Dr. Okafor said gently. You experienced profound trauma, Sloane. Not just medical trauma from the fertility struggles and miscarriages, but emotional trauma from a partner who blamed you, shamed you, and ultimately abandoned you at your lowest point. Wanting him to witness your strength, your success, your beautiful children, that's not vindictive. That's self-validation. But I don't need his validation, Sloane protested. I've built my self-worth back up without him. I know I'm not broken. I know I'm enough. I agree, Dr. Okafor said. So let me ask you this. If this isn't about needing his validation, what is it about? Sloane thought for a long moment. The boys, she said finally. They're starting to ask harder questions. Why doesn't Daddy visit? Why doesn't he call? Does he love us? I've told them their father lives far away and is very busy. But they're getting older. They're going to need real answers soon. And you think this baby shower is the right venue for that introduction? Honestly, yes. Sloane sat up straighter. Holden invited me to that shower for one reason only. To humiliate me. To parade his pregnant wife in front of me and show everyone that he got what he wanted with someone else. Someone better. Someone who worked. So you're turning his weapon back on him. I'm telling the truth, Sloane corrected. There's a difference. I'm not fabricating anything or exaggerating anything. I'm simply going to show up with the reality he never bothered to check on. If that humiliates him, that's a consequence of his own choices. Dr. Okafor made a note on her pad. And after the revelation, what happens then? Then we figure out custody, child support, visitation. I'll have my lawyer present. I've already prepared all the documentation. DNA tests proving paternity. Birth certificates with his name listed as father. Medical records from the pregnancy. Sloane's voice was steady now, clinical. The boys deserve financial support from both parents. They deserve to know their father if he's willing to step up. And if he's not, she paused, then at least we'll know definitively, and I can give them that closure. What if he wants to be involved? What if this changes him? Sloane considered this. Then the boys will have gained a father. And maybe Holden will have gained something more valuable than the perfect image he's been building. Maybe he'll gain actual substance. That's very generous of you, Dr. Okafor observed. It's realistic, Sloane countered. I don't hate Holden, Dr. Okafor. I did for a while. But hate takes too much energy, and I needed that energy to raise 3 babies. Now I mostly feel sad for who he was, and curious about who he might become when his illusions shatter. 200 miles away, in a sprawling Palo Alto mansion with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the Santa Cruz Mountains, Holden Pierce stood in his backyard surveying party preparations with deep satisfaction. White tents billowed gently in the May breeze, their fabric pristine and expensive. Tables draped in pale blue linen were scattered across the manicured lawn. A dessert bar was being constructed in one corner, tiered with French macarons and petit fours. In another corner, a champagne station featured bottles that cost more than most people's monthly rent. It's perfect, Tessa said, appearing at his elbow. At 28, she embodied the kind of effortless beauty that came from good genetics and better skincare. Her hand rested on her rounded belly, 5 months along with the son Holden had always wanted. Her engagement ring caught the sunlight, 3 carats of flawless diamond. You've outdone yourself. We've outdone ourselves, Holden corrected, kissing her temple. Though I still don't understand why you insisted on inviting Sloane. Tessa's smile was carefully practiced, the kind she'd perfected during her years working in tech public relations before landing Holden, because it shows we're mature, evolved people. Besides, she added, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone, I want her to see how happy we are, how well everything worked out. What she didn't say, but what Holden understood perfectly, was that Tessa wanted Sloane to witness her victory. The younger woman who had succeeded where Sloane had failed. The woman who had given Holden what he wanted most without years of medical intervention and heartbreak. She probably won't even come, Holden said dismissively. It would be too awkward, too painful. She RSVP'd yes, Tessa replied, pulling out her phone and showing him the email. 2 days ago. See? Sloane Hartley, 1 guest, dietary restrictions none, attending. Holden felt a flicker of something he couldn't quite name. Surprise, perhaps, or unease. He'd crafted the invitation with Tessa specifically to create this moment, this opportunity to show Sloane how much better his life was now. But he'd expected her to decline, to recognize the cruelty and refuse to participate. Her acceptance felt like a chess move he hadn't anticipated. Maybe she's finally moved on, Tessa suggested, scrolling through her phone to check other RSVPs. Found peace with her situation. Her situation. The phrase made Holden slightly uncomfortable, though he pushed the feeling away. Yes, he said, his voice more confident than he felt. That must be it. She's moved on, we've moved on, everyone's happy. But as the catering manager approached with questions about the menu, Holden found himself distracted. His mind kept returning to Sloane, to their last conversation, 5 years ago in a lawyer's office signing divorce papers. She'd been so quiet that day, dignified even in devastation. She'd signed every document without argument, without demanding more than the bare minimum. She'd looked at him once, with eyes that held more sadness than anger, and said simply, I hope you find what you're looking for, Holden. I really do. At the time, he'd felt vindicated, relieved, like a man who'd finally escaped a sinking ship. Now, with 5 years of distance, the memory sat differently in his chest. Heavier, more complicated. Mr. Pierce? The catering manager was waiting for an answer about truffle oil in the appetizers. Yes, fine, whatever you recommend, Holden said, waving him away. He turned to find Wade Carmichael, his business partner and oldest friend, arriving early. Wade crossed the lawn with his characteristic easy stride, taking in the elaborate setup with raised eyebrows. Quite the production, Wade commented, shaking Holden's hand. Planning to impress someone? Just celebrating, Holden replied. Big milestone. Wade's expression turned serious. Can we talk? Inside? In Holden's home office, all steel and glass with a minimalist aesthetic that Tessa had designed. Wade closed the door behind them with deliberate care. The gesture made Holden tense. What's wrong? Business problem? No, Wade said. I heard Sloane is coming today. News travels fast. Holden. Wade's tone was careful, measured. Are you sure this is a good idea? Inviting your ex-wife to your baby shower feels, he paused, searching for the right word. Cruel. Cruel? Holden bristled. Tessa invited her. It's a gesture of goodwill. It's a power play and you know it. Wade shook his head. Sloane was good to you, Holden. She didn't deserve how things ended. I wanted a family, Holden said defensively. After 4 years of failed treatments, miscarriages, heartbreak, I had to move on. Is that so wrong? You moved on 3 weeks after asking for the divorce, Wade pointed out quietly. With a woman 7 years younger. A woman who got pregnant within 6 months. You don't see how that might have destroyed Sloane? Holden turned to stare out the window at the party preparations below. She couldn't give me what I needed, Wade. We were both miserable. She was miserable because her body was going through medical hell, and instead of supporting her, you blamed her. Wade's voice held an edge of anger now, rare for his usually calm demeanor. You told her she was defective, Holden. I was there that night at the bar when you said it. You said you felt like you'd married a broken woman. I was frustrated. You were cruel. And now you're inviting her here to rub her face in your new life, your new wife, your baby on the way. Wade moved to stand beside him at the window. What's the point except to cause pain? Before Holden could respond, a knock interrupted them. Tessa entered without waiting for permission. Her smile bright but her eyes sharp. Am I interrupting? Not at all, Wade said smoothly, his anger disappearing behind professional courtesy. I was just congratulating you both. I should go greet other guests. After Wade left, Tessa studied Holden. What was that about? He thinks inviting Sloane was a mistake, Holden admitted. Tessa's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Wade always had a soft spot for her. Don't let him get in your head. This is our day. Our celebration. You're right, Holden said. But the unease Wade had planted kept growing. An hour later, the party was in full swing. Holden's parents had arrived from Seattle, his mother Patricia already cooing over baby gifts. Tessa's family held court near the Champagne station. Friends from the tech world mingled with neighbors and colleagues. The garden buzzed with conversation and laughter, everyone admiring the elegant setup. Holden found himself checking his watch repeatedly. 2:15, 2:30, 2:45. Sloane had RSVP'd but hadn't appeared. Part of him felt relieved. Part of him felt strangely disappointed. At 3 o'clock, Tessa gathered everyone for the gift opening ceremony. She'd arranged an elaborate display, a throne-like chair surrounded by perfectly wrapped boxes in coordinated blue and white. Holden sat beside her, playing his role, smiling as she opened designer diaper bags and engraved silver rattles and organic baby clothes that cost more than most people's weekly groceries. Oh, Tessa exclaimed, holding up a cashmere baby blanket. This is from Elizabeth and Marcus. Isn't it precious? The crowd murmured appreciation. Cameras clicked. Someone's phone was recording for social media. It was performative and perfect, exactly the kind of event that would generate the right kind of envy and admiration in their social circle. Then, at 3:15, a small commotion near the garden gate drew attention. Holden looked up from the gift Tessa was unwrapping. The murmurs spreading through the crowd had changed tone. Curiosity mixed with something else. Shock, maybe. A woman was entering the garden. Sloane. She looked different. Her dark hair, which she'd always worn long during their marriage, was now cut in a sophisticated shoulder-length style that framed her face. She'd lost weight, or perhaps she'd simply shed the stress that had marked their final years together. She wore a simple cream dress that somehow looked more elegant than half the designer outfits in the garden. But it wasn't Sloane who caused the ripple of whispers spreading through 200 guests. It was the 3 children holding her hands. 3 identical little boys, perhaps 3 or 4 years old, with copper-colored hair that gleamed in the afternoon sun. The same unusual shade of copper that marked Holden's baby photos, that ran through every Pierce generation. They wore matching navy shorts and crisp white shirts. And when they looked up at the crowd with curious eyes, those eyes were amber. The exact distinctive shade of amber that Holden saw in the mirror every morning. The same eyes his father had. The same eyes his grandfather had. The genetic signature was unmistakable. The entire party froze. 200 people caught mid-conversation, mid-sip, mid-laugh. Champagne glasses halfway to lips. Conversations abandoned mid-sentence. The string quartet in the corner stopped playing. The violinist's bow suspended in air. Even the catering staff stopped moving, trays of appetizers forgotten. Holden felt his vision narrow. felt the blood drain from his face, felt the world tilt on an axis he didn't understand. Tessa's voice, which had been mid-sentence thanking someone for a designer mobile, trailed off into silence. The gift she'd been holding slipped from her hands. Sloane approached with calm, measured steps. The three boys stayed close to her sides, suddenly shy in the face of so many staring adults. Their small hands gripped hers tightly, but they kept looking around with intelligent, curious eyes. Eyes that kept landing on Holden and staying there, as if recognizing something familiar. "Holden," Sloane said, her voice clear and steady in the profound silence. "Tessa, thank you for the invitation. I hope you don't mind. I brought my sons. The babysitter canceled last minute." The words landed like grenades. "Your sons." "My sons." Tessa found her voice first, though it came out strangled. "Your sons?" Sloane's smile was serene, almost peaceful. "Yes. This is Beckett," she said, touching the shoulder of the boy on her left. "And this is Griffin, the boy on her right. And this is Callum, the smallest one in the middle. Boys, can you say hello?" Three small voices chorused. "Hello." The sound broke the spell slightly. Whispers erupted. Phones came out. People leaned toward each other, urgent conversations beginning. Holden couldn't move, couldn't speak. His mind was racing, performing rapid calculations. 3 years old, maybe 4. That would mean the timeline, the last IVF treatment right before the divorce. "I don't understand," he managed finally, though his voice sounded distant to his own ears. "Who's what? I don't." Sloane turned to face him fully. She tilted her head slightly, as if surprised by his confusion. "I thought it was obvious, Holden. They're your sons. From our final IVF cycle. The one we completed right before you decided I was too defective to keep." More gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone dropped a plate. The sound of shattering porcelain punctuated Sloane's words. "That's impossible," Tessa said, her voice climbing. "You're lying. This is some kind of sick joke to ruin our celebration." Sloane turned to her, and though her expression remained pleasant, something steel-edged entered her tone. "I understand this is shocking, Tessa. Believe me, I was shocked too when I discovered I was pregnant 2 weeks after my divorce was finalized. But I'm not lying, and these boys are not a joke. They're Holden's biological children. DNA tests confirm it. I have all the documentation if you'd like to see it." Holden's mother, Patricia, moved first. She approached slowly, her hand over her mouth, her eyes fixed on the 3 boys. Up close, the resemblance was even more striking. The shape of their faces, the set of their jaws, the exact way their hair fell across their foreheads. "Is this true?" Patricia's voice shook. Are they really?" "DNA tests confirmed it," Sloane repeated. 99.9% probability of paternity. Times 3. One of the boys, the one Sloane had introduced as Beckett, tugged on her dress. "Mama, can we see the balloons?" "In a moment, sweetheart," Sloane said gently, her voice softening as she looked down at him. "That's Mama." The smallest one, Callum, whispered to Beckett, but his eyes were still fixed on Holden with open curiosity. Tessa was backing away, shaking her head. "This is insane. This can't be happening." Several of her friends moved to support her, but Tessa shook them off. She turned and fled toward the house, one hand on her pregnant belly, the other covering her mouth. Her mother hurried after her. The party guests stood frozen, witnessing a drama that would fuel gossip for months. Years, probably. Phones were definitely recording now. This was going to be everywhere by tomorrow. Holden finally broke from his paralysis. He took a step toward the boys, toward these impossible children who wore his face. The crowd parted silently, creating a pathway. He stopped a few feet away, staring at them with something between wonder and horror. The middle boy, Callum, stepped slightly behind Sloane's leg, suddenly nervous. But Beckett, bold and direct, stepped forward. "Are you our daddy?" Beckett asked, his voice clear and matter-of-fact. "You look like us. You have the same chin and the same eyes." The question cut through every defense Holden had. Every rationalization, every explanation, every denial. Because the answer was written across the boy's face. Written in genetic code that couldn't lie. Sloane placed a hand on Beckett's shoulder. Yes, sweetheart. This is your biological father, Holden Pierce. Why haven't we met him before? Griffin asked, the thoughtful one, his question more cautious than Beckett's. Because grown-up situations are complicated, Sloane said gently. But now you have. Holden dropped to his knees without conscious thought, bringing himself eye level with the three boys. Up close, the resemblance was devastating. He could see Sloane in them too, the shape of their mouths, the determined set of their chins. But the eyes, the hair, the ears, the hands, all Pierce. All unmistakably his. Holden's voice broke. How old are they? They turned 3 in February, Sloane answered. February 14th, actually. Valentine's Day. I was in labor for 19 hours. Triplets are considered high risk, so I had a team of specialists. My parents were there. My sister Kennedy. She paused. You were, from what I heard, on your honeymoon with Tessa at the time. The timeline hit Holden like a physical blow. 3 years. 3 years of birthdays and first words and first steps. 3 years of existence he'd known nothing about. Holden's father, Richard Pierce, had approached silently. He stood behind Holden, staring at his grandsons with an expression Holden had never seen before. A mixture of joy and fury. How long have you known? Richard demanded, and for a moment Holden thought the anger was directed at Sloane. Then Richard placed a hand on Holden's shoulder, squeezing hard. How long have you had grandchildren that you never thought to tell us about? I didn't know, Holden whispered. Dad, I swear I didn't know. You didn't ask, Sloane corrected quietly. After the divorce, you never once reached out. Never checked in. Never wondered if that final treatment might have worked. Wade appeared at the edge of the circle that had formed. He looked at the three boys, at Holden kneeling before them, at Sloane standing calm and strong. Oh, Tom, he said softly, what have you done? What have I done? Holden looked up at him. Wade, I didn't know. You have to believe me. I believe you, Wade said. That's almost worse. Isn't it? You were so busy running away from your old life that you never looked back. Not once. One of the boys, Griffin, was studying Holden with serious eyes. Why are you sad? He asked. Because Holden started, then stopped. How could he explain this to a 3-year-old? Because I just found out about you. About all 3 of you. And I'm very surprised. Surprised happy or surprised sad? Griffin asked. I don't know yet, Holden admitted, and the honesty of it shocked him. Sloane reached into her bag and pulled out 3 large manila envelopes. She handed them to Patricia, who took them with shaking hands. DNA results, birth certificates, and my attorney's contact information. When Holden is ready to discuss custody arrangements and child support, have him call. The number is on the card. You're leaving? Holden asked, sudden panic in his voice. Yes, Sloane said simply. The boys need lunch and naps. This has been overwhelming for them. She looked around at the 200 staring faces, the phones recording, the elaborate party decorations. And this really isn't an appropriate environment for children. But I just met them. Holden protested. We need to talk. I have questions. I don't understand. And we will talk, Sloane assured him. But not here. Not now. Not like this. She began gathering the boys, gently guiding them back toward the garden gate. Come on, sweethearts. Let's go get some lunch. Will we see him again? Callum asked, looking back at Holden. Yes, Sloane promised. You'll see your father again. When? Beckett demanded. Soon, Sloane said. Very soon. As they prepared to leave, Griffin pulled away from Sloane and walked back to Holden. He reached up and touched Holden's face with one small hand, his expression serious and curious. You do look like us, he observed. That's weird. Then he turned and ran back to his mother, taking her hand. The three boys, Sloane, and a woman Holden now noticed had been standing quietly near the gate, probably a nanny, all left together. The gate closed behind them with a soft click that sounded, in the profound silence, like a gavel falling. For a long moment nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The garden full of guests was frozen in tableau, everyone processing what they just witnessed. Then the whispers started, became conversations, became exclamations. The dam broke, and suddenly everyone was talking at once. Did you see those boys? They look exactly like him. 3 of them. Triplets. She raised them alone all this time. He had no idea. How could he not know? She never told him. Can you blame her after how he left? This is insane. Holden remained kneeling on the grass, staring at the gate where his sons had disappeared. His sons. He had sons. 3 of them. 3 years old. 3 years of life he'd missed entirely. Patricia knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. The envelopes were clutched to her chest. Holden, she whispered, you have children. We have grandchildren. I know, he said numbly. 3 of them, she repeated, as if trying to make it real through repetition. 3 beautiful boys. Richard stood over them both, his face hard. We need to call our lawyer immediately. There are legal implications here. Paternity, child support, custody rights. Not now, Dad, Holden said quietly. This is exactly the time, Richard insisted. That woman just dropped a bomb in the middle of your life. We need to protect your interests. Protect my interests? Holden looked up at his father. I have 3 sons I've never met. 3 children who've lived their entire lives without me. What interests are we protecting exactly? Richard opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at his wife, at the envelopes she held, at the garden full of guests who were now leaving rapidly, the party clearly over. Wade helped Holden to his feet. Come on, let's get you inside. The party disintegrated. Guests made awkward excuses and departed quickly, eager to leave the disaster but equally eager to start spreading the story. By tomorrow it would be everywhere. Greenwich Tech executive discovers secret triplets at baby shower. The headlines wrote themselves. Tessa remained locked in the master bedroom, refusing to speak to anyone. Her mother stood guard outside the door, giving Holden furious looks every time he tried to approach. In his office, Holden sat with the 3 envelopes spread across his desk. Wade had stayed, and Patricia and Richard sat on the sofa, everyone silent. Open them, Patricia finally said. We need to see. Holden opened the first envelope with shaking hands. DNA test results from a certified laboratory. Sample A, Holden James Pierce. Samples B, C, and D, Beckett Michael Collins Pierce. Griffin Alexander Collins Pierce. Callum Thomas Collins Pierce. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. Times 3. The birth certificates were next. 3 identical forms except for the names and exact times of birth. Beckett arrived at 2:14 a.m. Griffin at 2:31 a.m. Callum at 2:48 a.m. All on February 14th, 3 years ago. Father listed as Holden James Pierce. Mother listed as Sloane Rebecca Hartley. Holden's hands trembled as he read the details. Birth weight, length, APGAR scores. Real medical information. Real births. Real children. The final envelope contained a business card for Patricia Lynn, family law attorney, and a letter on law firm letterhead. It was brief and professional. Mr. Pierce, this letter is to inform you that our client, Sloane Rebecca Hartley, has retained our services regarding custody and support arrangements for your biological children. We request that you retain counsel and contact our office within 10 business days to begin discussions. We believe a collaborative approach would be in the best interests of all parties, particularly the children. However, if you choose not to respond, we are prepared to file formal petitions with the family court. The letter went on to list the children's basic needs, school information, medical requirements. There were photos too. Not professional portraits but candid snapshots. 3 babies in matching onesies. 3 toddlers covered in birthday cake. 3 boys playing in a sprinkler. 3 faces that looked like Holden's baby pictures but also like Sloane. A perfect combination of both of them. "They're beautiful," Patricia whispered, looking at the photos over Holden's shoulder. "Look at them, Holden. They're perfect." 3 years, Richard said, his voice still hard. "She kept them from you for 3 years. Did she keep them?" Wade asked quietly. Or did Holden never ask? Everyone looked at him. Wade met Holden's eyes steadily. "You divorced her because she couldn't have children. You married Tessa 6 months later. When did you ever check back with Sloane to see if that final treatment worked?" Holden started, then stopped. Because the answer was never. He'd never checked. Never called. Never even thought about it. He'd been so focused on moving forward that he'd never looked back. "Exactly," Wade said. "So maybe the question isn't why Sloane kept them from you. Maybe the question is why you made it so impossible for her to tell you." The words hung in the air, damning and true. Holden looked down at the photos again. 3 boys who had his face and Sloane's smile. 3 children who existed because of love he'd discarded and treatments he'd abandoned. "What do I do now?" Holden asked, looking at Wade. "That's up to you," Wade replied. "But whatever you decide, those boys come first. Not your ego, not your image, not your hurt feelings. Them." That night, Holden sat alone in his office long after his parents had left and Wade had gone home. The house was silent except for occasional sounds from upstairs where Tessa remained locked in the bedroom. The party decorations still littered the backyard. A catering crew scheduled to clean it all up in the morning. Unopened baby gifts sat stacked in the corner of the living room, suddenly feeling hollow and meaningless. Holden's phone had been buzzing constantly. Text messages, emails, voicemails. News traveled fast in their social circle. Some messages were from concerned friends. Others were barely disguised curiosity-seeking gossip. A few were from reporters who'd somehow already gotten wind of the story. He ignored them all. Instead, he sat staring at the photographs Sloane had included. There was one in particular that kept drawing his eyes. The 3 boys at what looked like a beach. They were building a sandcastle together, their faces lit with pure joy. Sloane was in the background, laughing at something one of them had said. They looked happy, complete, a family that had built itself without him. His computer dinged with a new email. Against his better judgment, Holden opened it. The subject line read simply, "I'm sorry." It was from Wade. "Tom, I know today was brutal. I'm sorry you had to find out that way. But I'm not sorry you found out. Those boys deserve to know their father. And maybe you deserve a chance to be the man you should have been 5 years ago. Don't let pride or fear keep you from them. They didn't choose any of this. Call Sloane's lawyer tomorrow. Do the right thing. Wait." Holden closed the email and opened a browser. He typed, "How to talk to 3-year-olds," into the search bar. Then he spent the next 3 hours reading everything he could find about child development, parenting triplets, and co-parenting after separation. At 2 in the morning, he finally went upstairs. The master bedroom door was still locked. He knocked softly. "Tessa, can we talk?" Silence. Then her voice, muffled and cold through the door. "There's nothing to talk about tonight, Holden. I need space." "Fair enough," Holden said. He went to the guest room and lay down on the bed fully clothed, staring at the ceiling until gray dawn light started filtering through the windows. The next morning, Holden's phone rang at 7 a.m. It was his executive assistant, Margaret. "Mr. Pierce, I'm so sorry to call early, but you need to see the news." Holden turned on his television. The local morning show was running a story. The cheerin at the bottom read, "Silicon Valley executives' secret children revealed at baby shower." They were using carefully worded language to avoid defamation, but the story was clear. Anonymous sources, social media posts from party guests, speculation about the scandal. His phone rang again immediately. Robert Chun, the CEO of their venture capital firm's largest partner company. Holden, what the hell is going on? This is all over my feed. Then his business partner, Michael Torres. Tom, the board wants an emergency meeting. This is affecting investor confidence. Then his mother. Holden, honey, are you okay? Your father is already calling lawyers. The calls kept coming. Holden turned off his phone. Tessa emerged from the bedroom around 9, her eyes red and swollen. She'd clearly been crying all night. She walked past Holden without speaking, poured herself coffee, and sat at the kitchen island with her back to him. Tessa, we need to talk about this, Holden said gently. She spun around on the stool, her face twisted with anger and pain. Talk about what, Holden? Talk about how you have 3 secret children. Talk about how your ex-wife just humiliated us in front of everyone we know? Talk about how our baby is going to have to share everything with 3 children you never told me about? I didn't know about them, Holden said desperately. You have to believe me. I had no idea Sloane was pregnant. Does that even matter? Tessa's voice rose. Whether you knew or not, they exist. They're your heirs, Holden. Your biological children. Our baby, she touched her stomach, is going to be 4th in line for everything. 4th. This isn't about money, Holden protested. Everything is about money, Tessa shot back. Your estate, your company shares, your trust funds, all of it has to be split now. For ways instead of one. And that's assuming you don't have more secret children somewhere else. That's not fair. Fair? Tessa laughed. A harsh sound. You want to talk about fair? I've spent 6 months planning our perfect life. Our perfect family. And in 60 seconds, your ex-wife destroyed all of it. She stood up, grabbing her coffee. My lawyer is coming over this afternoon. I suggest you get one too. She left the kitchen. Holden heard her going back upstairs, heard the bedroom door close and lock again. He sat alone at the kitchen island in the house that suddenly felt like a museum. Perfect and cold and empty of actual life. Through the windows, he could see the cleanup crew taking down the party tents, removing the blue decorations, erasing all evidence of yesterday's celebration. At 10 a.m., Holden called the number on Patricia Lynn's business card. A receptionist answered professionally. Lynn and Associates Family Law. This is Holden Pierce, he said. I'm calling about Sloane Hartley's case. One moment please, Mr. Pierce. I'll see if Ms. Lynn is available. After a brief hold, a confident female voice came on the line. Mr. Pierce, this is Patricia Lynn. Thank you for calling so promptly. I want to see them, Holden said without preamble. The boys. My sons. When can I see them? There was a brief pause. I appreciate your eagerness, Mr. Pierce, but we need to establish some ground rules first. These children have lived their entire lives without knowing you. Any introduction needs to be gradual, supervised, and focused entirely on their emotional well-being. I understand, Holden said. What do you recommend? First, we need to meet, you, me, and Ms. Hartley, to discuss expectations, boundaries, and create a plan that puts the children first. Are you available tomorrow afternoon? Yes, Holden said immediately. Anything. Whenever works for Sloane. 2 o'clock at my office. Ms. Lynn gave him the address. And Mr. Pierce? I strongly suggest you come with legal representation and an open mind. This meeting will set the tone for everything that follows. After hanging up, Holden called Harold Winters, the attorney who'd handled his divorce from Sloane 5 years ago. Harold answered on the first ring. Holden, I've already seen the news. Before you say anything, I need to ask you directly. Did you know about these children when you filed for divorce from Ms. Hartley? No, Holden said firmly. I had no idea. We did our last IVF treatment, it failed like all the others, and I asked for the divorce. I met Tessa a few weeks later. That's the truth. All right, Harold said, his voice relieved. That's important. Because if you'd known and deliberately concealed it, we'd have serious problems. He paused. Those boys are yours? DNA tests confirm it. 99.9%. Then we need to move quickly. Child support alone for 3 children, given your income, is going to be substantial. We're talking potentially 6 figures annually. Plus, there are questions of custody, visitation, education expenses, medical costs. I don't care about the money, Holden interrupted. I just want to know my sons. That's admirable, Holden, but we still need to protect your interests and establish fair terms. Harold's voice turned businesslike. I'll accompany you to tomorrow's meeting. In the meantime, I need you to send me all the documentation Ms. Hartley provided. And Holden, don't speak to the press. Don't post on social media, and don't try to contact Ms. Hartley directly. Everything goes through the attorneys now. The rest of the day passed in a blur of phone calls and crisis management. The board of Holden's venture capital firm held an emergency video conference. They were diplomatic but firm. The scandal was affecting their public image. Investors were nervous. Perhaps Holden should consider taking a temporary leave of absence while he sorted out his personal situation. 6 months, suggested Walter Brennan, the chairman. Michael Torres can serve as interim CEO. This gives you time to handle your family matters and lets us assure clients that business continues as usual. Holden wanted to fight to remind them who'd built the firm, who'd closed their biggest deals. But he was exhausted and distracted. Fine, he agreed. 6 months. His mother called 3 more times. Each call a mixture of excitement about the grandchildren and fury at Holden for missing 3 years of their lives. Your father is already planning how to modify his will, she said. Those boys are Pierce's, Holden. They need to be provided for. I know, Mom. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you threw away a good woman and a family because you were too impatient and proud. Patricia's voice broke. I could have had 3 more years with those babies, Holden. 3 years of birthdays and holidays. You took that from all of us. The accusation stung because it was true. I'm sorry was all he could say. Sorry doesn't get us back what we lost, she replied. But maybe you can make sure we don't lose any more. She paused. I'm coming to tomorrow's meeting with you. I want to meet my grandsons properly. That evening, Tessa's mother arrived with suitcases. She and Tessa left together without Tessa saying goodbye to Holden. On her way out, Tessa paused in the doorway. My lawyer will be in touch about separation terms. I'm staying at my parents' house until we figure out what happens next. What do you want to happen? Holden asked. Tessa looked at him with eyes that held more disappointment than anger. I want to go back to 48 hours ago when our biggest problem was choosing between cream or ivory for the nursery. But we can't do that, can we? She touched her belly. This baby deserves better than being an afterthought in your redemption arc with your ex-wife's children. That's not what this is, Holden protested. Isn't it? Tessa asked. Then she left, closing the door quietly behind her. Somehow the quiet click was worse than if she'd slammed it. Holden sat alone in his enormous, perfect house. The house that had been in Architectural Digest. The house that was supposed to represent everything he'd achieved. Felt like a mausoleum. He went to his laptop and did something he hadn't allowed himself to do in 5 years. He looked up Sloane's social media. Her accounts were private, but her professional profiles were public. Dr. Sloane Hartley, Environmental Engineering, Westbrook University. Published research papers on sustainable water systems. Teaching awards. Grant funding for international projects. She'd built a whole life. A successful, meaningful life. While raising 3 children alone. Holden found himself on her university faculty page, looking at her professional photo. She was smiling, confident, accomplished. She looked happy in a way she hadn't looked during their final years together. Those years had been marked by medical appointments and disappointment and his growing resentment. He'd made her feel like a failure. He saw that now with painful clarity. And she'd been pregnant. The whole time he was moving on, dating Tessa, planning his new perfect life, Sloane had been carrying his children. 3 of them, going through a high-risk pregnancy alone. The weight of what he'd done, what he'd failed to do, settled on his chest like concrete. At midnight, unable to sleep, Holden went down to his home gym and ran on the treadmill until his legs burned and his lungs ached. Physical pain was easier than the emotional turmoil. When he finally stopped, sweat-soaked and exhausted, he checked his phone. One new email. From Wade. Just checking in. You okay? Holden typed back. No. But I will be. I have to be. For them. Wade's response came immediately. That's the right answer. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's a big day. But Holden couldn't sleep. He went back to his office and spent the rest of the night reading the research Sloan had sent. Every detail of the boys' lives. Their medical records showing healthy development. Their preschool reports noting they were social and bright. Photos from various ages, documenting growth he'd missed entirely. Beckett's first steps at 11 months. Griffin's first word, book, at 10 months. Callum's cautious personality, slower to warm up but deeply affectionate. Their first birthday covered in cake. Their second birthday at a children's museum. Their third birthday just 3 months ago at what looked like a park. All 3 boys wearing superhero capes. Every photo was a reminder of absence. Of time he could never get back. When morning finally came, Holden showered and dressed carefully. Business casual, Harold had advised. You want to look responsible and professional, but not like you're treating this as a business transaction. At 1:30, Holden met Harold and his mother at Patricia Lynn's office in downtown Palo Alto. The building was modern but not ostentatious. The waiting room had comfortable furniture and children's toys in one corner. The toys made Holden's stomach clench. Mr. Pierce? A receptionist called. Ms. Lynn is ready for you. They were led to a conference room. Sloan was already there, sitting calmly with Patricia Lynn. She wore professional clothes, a navy blazer and slacks. Her expression was neutral, giving nothing away. Holden's mother made a small sound and moved forward. Sloan, dear. It's been so long. Patricia, Sloan said, standing. She accepted the older woman's embrace stiffly. It's good to see you. I wish it were under better circumstances, Patricia said, pulling back to look at Sloan's face. You look well. Healthy. Thank you. So do you. The attorneys guided everyone to seats around the large conference table. Harold on one side with Holden and his mother. Patricia Lynn on the other side with Sloan. It felt absurdly formal given that Holden and Sloan had once been married, had once been intimate enough to create 3 children together. Thank you all for coming, Patricia Lynn began. This meeting is to establish preliminary ground rules for Mr. Pierce's introduction to the children and to discuss initial custody and support arrangements. She looked directly at Holden. Mr. Pierce, before we begin, I need to ask, what are your intentions regarding Beckett, Griffin, and Callum? Holden cleared his throat. I want to know them, to be their father if they'll let me. And what does being their father mean to you? Patricia Lynn asked. The question threw him. What does it mean? Yes, the attorney pressed. Are you interested in occasional visits? Regular custody? Full co-parenting? We need to understand what you're hoping for here. Holden looked at Sloan, but her face remained unreadable. He looked at his own attorney, but Harold just nodded, indicating he should answer honestly. I don't know, Holden admitted finally. I've been a father for less than 48 hours, at least consciously. I don't know what I'm hoping for except a chance to know them, to be part of their lives in whatever way is best for them. Patricia Lynn made a note. That's honest, at least. Ms. Hartley, do you have thoughts on Mr. Pierce's involvement? This was it. The moment where Sloan could shut him out entirely or open a door. Holden held his breath. Sloan was quiet for a long moment. The boys ask about their father, she said finally. They have for over a year now. I've shown them pictures of Holden. I've told them he lives far away and is very busy with work, but that he's their daddy. She paused. I never wanted them to feel abandoned or unwanted. So yes, I think Holden should be part of their lives. But it needs to be done carefully and it needs to be consistent. What do you mean by consistent? Holden asked. I mean you don't get to be a part-time father when it's convenient. Sloan said, her voice sharpening slightly. If you're in their lives, you're in. You show up when you say you'll show up. You put them first. You don't disappear when things get hard or when your new wife gets uncomfortable. The dig about Tessa landed, but Holden didn't flinch. I understand. Do you? Because your track record of commitment when things get difficult isn't great, Holden. That was in the past, Holden said quietly. I'm different now. You've been different for 48 hours, Sloane countered. Forgive me for being skeptical. Fair enough, Holden acknowledged. All I can do is show you through my actions. Tell me what you need from me and I'll do it. Sloane exchanged a glance with her attorney. Patricia Lynn opened a folder. We propose starting with supervised visits. 2 afternoons per week, 2 hours each, at a neutral location. Ms. Hartley will be present for the first month. I agree, Holden said immediately. His attorney, Harold, interjected. My client is agreeable to supervised visits, but we should discuss the supervision timeline. A month seems excessive given that these are his biological children. The boys don't know him, Patricia Lynn responded. From their perspective, he's a stranger who happens to look like them. We're not going to traumatize 3-year-olds by rushing this process. Holden put a hand on Harold's arm. The month is fine. Whatever makes the boys comfortable. Sloane looked surprised by his quick agreement but said nothing. Next, we need to discuss child support, Patricia Lynn continued. Ms. Hartley has been solely financially responsible for 3 children for 3 years. We're requesting retroactive support as well as ongoing monthly support. Harold opened his own folder. We're prepared to discuss fair support terms. However, retroactive support for a period when my client had no knowledge of the children's existence seems inequitable. The law doesn't care about Mr. Pierce's knowledge, Patricia Lynn said coolly. He fathered 3 children. Those children had expenses. He's legally obligated. How much are we talking about? Holden asked. Patricia Lynn slid a document across the table. Based on California child support guidelines for your income level, monthly support for 3 children would be approximately $15,000. Retroactive support for 36 months would be $540,000, though we're willing to discuss a payment plan. Holden's mother gasped. Harold started to object, but Holden just nodded. Fine. Holden, Harold said urgently. We need to review this carefully. She raised them alone for 3 years, Holden said. 3 years of diapers and food and clothes and medical care and everything else. This is the least I can do. He looked at Sloane. I'll write you a check today for the back support, and I'll set up monthly transfers for ongoing support. For the first time, Sloane's careful composure cracked slightly. She blinked, clearly not having expected him to agree so readily. Additionally, Patricia Lynn continued, clearly also surprised, we'd like to discuss education expenses. The boys will be starting kindergarten next year. Ms. Hartley would like them to attend Westbrook Academy, which is $12,000 per child annually. Done, Holden said. Whatever school is best for them. Harold was writing furious notes. Holden, please let me review these terms before you agree to everything. But Holden was looking at Sloane. I'm not going to nickel and dime you over our children's expenses. Sloane, you've done everything alone for 3 years. That's over now. Whatever they need, they'll have. Sloane's eyes glistened slightly, though she didn't let the tears fall. Thank you. The meeting continued for another hour, working through logistics. The first visit would be Thursday at 3 p.m. at a children's play center. Holden would arrive first. Sloane would bring the boys and explain that they were meeting their father. She'd stay the entire time. After all the paperwork was reviewed and initial agreements drafted, the attorneys stepped out to make copies. Holden found himself alone in the conference room with Sloane and his mother. Patricia immediately turned to Sloane. "Can I see pictures? Recent ones?" Sloane pulled out her phone and showed Patricia dozens of photos. The two women sat close together, Patricia exclaiming over each image. "Look at this one, Holden. Don't they look just like you did at that age?" Holden moved closer to see. The photo showed all three boys at a beach, building a sandcastle. They were laughing, their faces bright with joy. "They look happy." "They are happy," Sloane said quietly. "They're wonderful boys, Holden. Smart and funny and kind. Beckett is the leader, always organizing the other two. Griffin loves books and asks a million questions. Callum is the sensitive one, very affectionate." "Do they know about me?" Holden asked. "They know they have a father who loves them but lives far away," Sloane said. "I've never spoken badly about you to them. I didn't want them to grow up feeling abandoned or thinking they weren't wanted." "But they were wanted," Holden said, his voice breaking slightly. "If I'd known, Sloane, if I'd had any idea you were pregnant, would it have changed anything?" Sloane asked. "Would you have stayed?" Holden wanted to say yes immediately, but honesty stopped him. He thought about who he'd been 3 years ago. Desperate for a child, yes, but also desperate for a specific vision of life. Would he have stayed with Sloane? Or would he have tried to take the babies and still leave her? "I don't know," he admitted finally. "I like to think I would have. But I was a different person then. Focused on all the wrong things." "And now?" Sloane asked. "Now I just want a chance to know them. To be the father they deserve." He met her eyes. "Thank you for giving me this opportunity. You didn't have to." "No," Sloane agreed. "But they deserve to know their father. And despite everything, I don't think you're a bad person, Holden. Just a person who lost his way." The attorneys returned with documents to sign. Temporary custody agreement, child support terms, visitation schedule. Holden signed everything without reading it thoroughly, much to Harold's consternation. As they prepared to leave, Holden's mother hugged Sloane again. "I'd like to meet them too. The boys. Would that be possible?" Sloane hesitated, then nodded. "Let's see how the first visit goes with Holden. Then we can talk about introducing grandparents. They're already planning to update their estate," Patricia said. "The boys will be included in the trusts, same as any Pierce grandchildren." Sloane's expression tightened. "I don't want this to be about money." "It's not," Patricia assured her. "It's about family. Those boys are family." After everyone dispersed, Holden sat in his car in the parking garage. He pulled out his phone and transferred $540,000 to the account information Patricia Lynn had provided. Then he set up automatic monthly transfers of $15,000. In one afternoon, he'd committed nearly $750,000. Harold had looked ready to have a heart attack. But the money didn't matter. Not compared to 3 years of life he'd missed. Not compared to a chance to know his sons. His phone rang. "Tessa." "Hello," he answered. "My lawyer sent over her proposed separation terms," Tessa said without greeting. "I'm requesting the house, $3 million in cash, and half of the company shares we acquired during the marriage." "Okay," Holden said. Tessa paused. "Okay, that's it? You're not going to fight me?" "No," Holden said. "Take whatever you want, Tessa. I'll sign whatever papers you send." Another pause. "You've really changed, haven't you? In 2 days, you've completely become a different person." "No," Holden said quietly. "I'm becoming the person I should have been all along." Tessa made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "I can't compete with them, Holden. With her and those boys. I'm pregnant with your child, and I'm still going to come in second." This isn't a competition. It is, though, Tessa said. And I've already lost. She hung up. Holden sat in the dark parking garage and let himself feel the weight of everything he'd destroyed. His marriage to Tessa was over. His position at his company was suspended. His reputation was damaged. His perfect life had imploded. And somehow, despite all of it, he felt the tiniest spark of something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not hope for himself, but hope that maybe, possibly, he could be something meaningful to 3 small boys who deserved so much better than what he'd given them so far. Which was nothing. He'd given them nothing but his DNA and his absence. It was time to change that. Time to be present. Time to show up. Time to do the work of actually being a father instead of just wanting the title. Thursday couldn't come fast enough. Thursday morning arrived after 2 days that felt like 2 years. Holden barely slept. He'd spent the time reading parenting books, watching videos about communicating with young children, and scrolling through the photos Sloane had provided until he had each boy's face memorized. Beckett, the bold one. Griffin, the thoughtful one. Callum, the sensitive one. His sons. The words still felt surreal. He changed clothes 4 times before settling on jeans and a simple navy sweater. Nothing too formal, nothing too casual. He wanted to look approachable. Fatherly. Though he had no idea what fatherly actually looked like on him. At 2:30, he arrived at Sunshine Play Center in Mountain View. The building was bright and colorful, designed to appeal to children. Through the large windows he could see play structures, ball pits, slides. His stomach churned with nerves he hadn't felt since his first major investor pitch. But this was so much more important than any business deal. This was his children, his sons, meeting him for real, not in the chaos of a ruined baby shower, but in a space designed for them, on their terms. He sat in his car, palms sweating, until his phone buzzed. A text from Sloane. We're here. Parking now. The boys are excited. Excited. That was good, right? Or were they excited because they didn't understand the significance? Did they think this was just a playdate? Holden forced himself out of the car. Inside, he checked in at the front desk. The young woman recognized him immediately. Her eyes widened. Oh, Mr. Pierce. Yes, Ms. Hartley called ahead. She said you're meeting your sons for the first time. Officially, news of the baby shower incident had clearly spread. Holden managed a tight smile. Yes, first official visit. That's wonderful, the woman said, and she seemed genuine. They're beautiful boys. We see them here sometimes. She pointed toward a private party room. Ms. Hartley requested that space so you'd have some privacy, but the boys could still play. Thank you, Holden said. He walked toward the room on legs that felt unsteady. Through the window in the door, he could see Sloane sitting at a small table, and 3 small boys running around, chasing each other, their laughter audible even through the glass. Holden pushed open the door. The boys stopped running and turned to look at him. 3 identical faces. 3 sets of amber eyes. His eyes. Hi, Holden said, his voice coming out rougher than intended. Sloane stood. Boys, remember we talked about this? This is your daddy, Holden. He's gonna spend some time with you today. Beckett stepped forward first, bold and direct. I remember you from the party. You were surprised. I was very surprised, Holden agreed, kneeling down to their eye level just like the parenting articles had suggested. But it was a good surprise. The best surprise I've ever had. Why didn't you know about us? Griffin asked, his question more analytical than accusatory. Holden glanced at Sloane, who nodded slightly. Permission to answer honestly. Because your mom and I didn't live together anymore when you were born. We lived in different places and didn't talk to each other. So I didn't know you existed until I saw you. That's weird, Griffin observed. It is weird, Holden agreed. But I know about you now. And I'm very happy to meet you properly. Callum hung back near Sloane, watching Holden with cautious eyes. Sloane gently encouraged him forward. It's okay, sweetheart. Remember what we talked about? Daddy wants to get to know you. Are you going to stay? Callum asked Sloane, his voice small. I'm staying right here the whole time, Sloane promised. Reassured, Callum took a tentative step toward Holden. You have red hair like us. I do, Holden said. We get it from my dad. Your grandpa. He has red hair too. We have a grandpa? Beckett's eyes lit up. You have 2 grandpas and 2 grandmas, Holden said. My mom and dad, your grandma Patricia and grandpa Richard. They live far away, but they really want to meet you. Do they know about us? Griffin asked. They do now, Holden said. And they're very excited. For the next 2 hours, Holden played. He pushed the boys on swings in the indoor play area. He helped them navigate a foam obstacle course, spotting Callum, who was more cautious than his brothers. He sat cross-legged on a mat while they brought him various toys to admire, each boy showing him their favorites. Look, Daddy. Beckett held up a toy truck. It's a fire truck. I want to be a firefighter when I grow up. That's a great goal, Holden said, examining the truck seriously. Firefighters are very brave. Griffin brought over a picture book about dinosaurs. Do you like dinosaurs? This one is a triceratops. It has 3 horns. That's why it's called Triceratops. Tri means 3. You're very smart, Holden said, genuinely impressed. Do you like to read? I love reading, Griffin said solemnly. Mama reads to us every night before bed. Callum approached more slowly, holding a stuffed elephant. This is Peanut, he said quietly. He's my favorite. Can I hold Peanut? Holden asked gently. Callum considered this, then carefully placed the elephant in Holden's hands. Be careful with him. He's special. I'll be very careful, Holden promised, cradling the worn stuffed animal. He looks very well loved. I've had him since I was a baby, Callum explained. Mama gave him to me. From her seat at the table, Sloane watched the interaction. Her expression was carefully neutral, but Holden caught something in her eyes. Surprise, maybe, or cautious hope. As the boys played, they naturally gravitated back to Holden every few minutes, bringing him things, showing him tricks, asking him questions. Do you have a house? Beckett asked. I do, but I'm moving soon, Holden answered, to a place closer to where you live. Why? Griffin wanted to know. So I can see you more often, Holden explained. I want to spend lots of time with you. Every day? Callum asked. Not every day at first, Holden said carefully, but a few times every week. And when you get more used to me, maybe more often. Can we come to your new house? Beckett asked. Absolutely, Holden said. I'm going to set up a room just for you, with beds and toys and anything else you want. Can we have bunk beds? Beckett's excitement was palpable. Holden laughed. If your mom says it's okay, then yes. All 3 boys turned to Sloane. Can we, Mama? We'll see, Sloane said, the universal parent answer. When the 2 hours ended, Holden felt simultaneously exhausted and energized. Being fully present with 3 rambunctious 3-year-olds required a level of attention he usually reserved for board meetings. But it was different, better, more meaningful. As Sloane prepared to leave, gathering the boys' jackets and backpacks, Callum approached Holden. He held up his arms in the universal gesture for pick-me-up. Holden glanced at Sloane, who nodded. He lifted Callum, feeling the solid weight of him. The small arms wrapped around his neck. The scent of apple shampoo and something uniquely child. Will you come back? Callum asked, his face pressed against Holden's shoulder. Yes, Holden promised, his voice thick. I'll come back on Saturday. And then next week. And the week after that. I'll keep coming back, Callum. Promise. Callum pulled back to look at Holden's face. Pinky promise? Holden wrapped his pinky around Callum's tiny one. Pinky promise. After the boys left with Sloane, Holden sat in his car and cried. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization of what he'd almost lost, what he'd missed, and what he now had a chance to gain. His phone buzzed. A text from Sloane. They talked about you the whole drive home. Beckett wants to show you his rock collection next time. Griffin wants to bring you his favorite book. Callum asked if you like elephants. I think it went well. Holden typed back with shaking hands. Thank you for this, for giving me this chance. I won't waste it. Her response came a minute later. I know. Over the next 6 weeks, Thursday and Saturday visits became the anchors of Holden's existence. Everything else in his life restructured around those 4 hours each week. He turned down business calls, ignored other obligations, and showed up 15 minutes early to every single visit. The play center visits evolved. After the first 2 weeks, Sloane moved from sitting at the table to occasionally joining their play. After 4 weeks, she brought her laptop and worked while observing from a distance. The boys grew more comfortable, more themselves. Holden learned their rhythms. Beckett was the natural leader, organizing his brothers into elaborate games. Griffin asked constant questions, his curiosity insatiable. Callum was the peacemaker, soothing conflicts between his brothers with gentle suggestions. During their 5th visit, Griffin fell while climbing. Not seriously, just a scraped knee. But he cried, and Holden's instinct took over. He scooped Griffin up without thinking, examining the injury while making soothing sounds. "It's okay, buddy," Holden murmured. "Just a little scrape. You're so brave." "It hurts," Griffin hiccuped. "I know," Holden said. "But you know what? Your body is already starting to heal it. By tomorrow it'll feel much better." "Isn't that amazing?" Griffin peeked up at him. "Really? Really? Our bodies are incredible healing machines." Sloane appeared with the first aid kit she always carried, but she paused. She watched as Holden cleaned and bandaged Griffin's knee with surprising competence. "Where did you learn that?" she asked after Griffin ran off to play again. "Pediatric first aid course," Holden admitted. "I took it 3 weeks ago. Thought it might be useful." Something in Sloane's expression softened. "It is useful. Thank you." They stood together watching the boys play. This was the closest they'd been since the divorce, and Holden was acutely aware of her presence. The familiar scent of her perfume. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was thinking. "They're bonding with you," Sloane said quietly. "Especially Griffin. He talks about you constantly during the week now." "He does?" Holden couldn't keep the hope from his voice. "Constantly. Daddy said this. Daddy thinks that." She smiled slightly. "Callum has started copying the way you stand. Hands in pockets, head tilted. It's uncanny." "And Beckett?" "Beckett announced yesterday that when he grows up, he wants to work with computers like his daddy," Sloane said. "Though I'm not sure he actually knows what you do." "I'm not sure I know what I do anymore," Holden admitted. "The firm asked me to take a leave of absence. 6 months to sort out my personal life." "I heard," Sloane said. "I'm sorry. I'm not," Holden said honestly. "This is more important. They're more important." He paused. "I've spent my whole career building things that don't actually matter. But this? Being their father? This is the most important thing I'll ever do." Sloane studied his face. "You've changed, Holden." "I'm trying to. I have a long way to go, but I'm trying." One Saturday, Holden arrived to find Sloane looking stressed. Her sister Kennedy was there as well, which was unusual. "Is everything okay?" Holden asked. "I have a meeting at the university," Sloane explained. "A grant committee thing that just got scheduled last minute. Kennedy was going to watch the boys, but her daughter just came down with a fever. She needs to get home." Holden's heart jumped. "I can take them. By myself." Sloane hesitated. "It's only been 6 weeks. I know, but I'm ready. They're comfortable with me now. And if anything goes wrong, I'll call you immediately." Sloane looked at Kennedy, who shrugged. "He's their father, Sloane. You're going to have to trust him eventually." After a long moment, Sloane nodded. "Okay, but I want updates. Text me every 30 minutes so I know everything's okay." For the next 3 hours, Holden had his first solo parenting experience. He took the boys to a nearby park. They fed ducks at a pond, though Beckett tried to chase the ducks and Holden had to explain about respecting animals. They played on the playground, and Holden learned that 3-year-olds could climb much higher than he was comfortable with. Lunch was an adventure. Holden took them to a family restaurant and discovered that 3 small children ordering 3 different meals created chaos. Beckett didn't like how his sandwich was cut. Griffin spilled his juice. Callum ate approximately 3 bites and declared himself full. But they laughed. They talked to Holden about everything from their preschool friends to a bird they'd seen to why the sky was blue. And when an older couple at a nearby table commented on the 3 handsome boys, Beckett announced proudly, "That's our daddy. Our daddy." The words made Holden's chest tight. He texted Sloane updates. "All good at the park. Ducks fed, Slides conquered, no injuries. At lunch. Minor juice spill, but everyone's happy. Heading back to your place. They want to show me their room. When Sloane met them at her townhouse, she looked surprised. Everyone's in one piece. And clean, mostly. It went great, Holden said. Though I learned that 3-year-olds eat about 5% of their meals and wear the rest. Sloane laughed, and the sound made Holden realize he hadn't heard her really laugh in years. Come in, she offered. The boys want to show you something. Holden stepped into Sloane's home for the first time. It was different from the house they'd shared during their marriage. Smaller but warmer. More lived in. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator. Photos lined the hallway. A bookcase overflowed with picture books and scientific journals side by side. Our house, Beckett announced proudly. Come see our room. The boys led Holden upstairs to a large bedroom that had been divided into 3 spaces. Each boy had their own bed, their own small bookshelf, their own area decorated to their personality. But the room felt cohesive, united. What struck Holden most were the framed photographs on the wall. Pictures of himself. His college graduation photo. A professional headshot. A newspaper clipping about his company. Sloane had made sure the boys knew their father, even in his absence. You kept me present for them, Holden said to Sloane, who'd followed them upstairs. They had a right to know where they came from, Sloane replied. I never wanted them to feel abandoned or to think their father didn't care. Even after everything, Holden said. Even after how I treated you. You protected me in their eyes. I protected them, Sloane corrected gently. Children need to believe the best of their parents for as long as possible. Daddy, look. Callum showed Holden his stuffed elephant collection, lined up on his bed. Peanut has friends now. That's wonderful, Holden said, admiring each one. After the boys went back downstairs to play, Holden and Sloane stood in the hallway. I got an apartment, Holden said, for blocks from here. 3 bedrooms so the boys can each have their own space when they stay over. They're not ready for overnight visits yet, Sloane said. I know, but when they are, I want to be ready. He paused. I'm also seeing a therapist, Dr. Alan Bennett. He specializes in helping people through life transitions. Holden, that's great. I have a lot to work through, Holden admitted. About why I handled our fertility struggles so badly. Why I made you feel like you were the problem when the problem was me. We both struggled, Sloane said. No, Holden said firmly. You struggled with a medical condition. I struggled with my ego. There's a difference, and I'm finally understanding that. Sloane's eyes glistened slightly. I appreciate you saying that. Over the following weeks, the visits extended. 3 hours became 4. 4 became 6. Holden started taking the boys to his new apartment, which he'd furnished carefully. 3 small beds shaped like race cars in 3 different rooms. Toys chosen based on each boy's interests. Books lining shelves at child height. The boys loved having separate rooms. They'd never had that before, always sharing the 1 bedroom at Sloane's place. When I get bigger, Beckett announced, I'm going to have rocket wallpaper in my room. We can do that, Holden agreed. Griffin, what about your room? Books, Griffin said immediately. A whole wall of books. Like a library. And Callum? Holden asked. Callum thought seriously. Something soft. With pillows. A reading nook, maybe. We'll make it happen, Holden promised. During their sessions, Dr. Bennett helped Holden understand his past behavior. The pressure he'd felt from his own father to carry on the family name. The way he'd internalized success as something measurable and visible. The inability to separate Sloane's worth as a person from her ability to give him what he wanted. You treated her like she'd failed you, Dr. Bennett said during one session. When in reality, you were both dealing with a medical challenge. I know that now, Holden said, but at the time I couldn't see it. I just felt like my life was slipping away, like I was running out of time. And now I realize I was focused on all the wrong things. Legacy isn't about bloodlines or company shares. It's about the people you love and how you treat them. It's about showing up every day and doing the work of actually being present. That's growth, Dr. Bennett observed. 3 months into regular visits, Sloane invited Holden to attend parent-teacher conferences at the boys' preschool. They sat side by side while the teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, showed them the boys' artwork and discussed their development. Beckett is a natural leader, Ms. Rodriguez said. He organizes the other children during playtime, sometimes a bit too bossy, but he's learning to listen to others' ideas. Griffin is incredibly bright, she continued. He's already recognizing written words. His questions are very advanced for his age. We're working on social interactions because he sometimes gets too focused on books and forgets to play with others. And Callum is our gentle soul, Ms. Rodriguez smiled. He's the one who comforts other children when they're upset. He's empathetic and kind. We're working on building his confidence because he sometimes hangs back when he should advocate for himself. They sound wonderful, Holden said, pride evident in his voice. They are, Ms. Rodriguez agreed. And they've been talking about their daddy a lot lately. It's clear they're very happy to have you in their lives. After the conference, Holden and Sloane sat in his car in the preschool parking lot. Thank you for including me in that, Holden said. It means a lot. You're their father, Sloane said. You should be involved in their education. Still, Holden pressed. You could have shut me out completely. You had every right to. Sloane turned to look at him. What purpose would that serve? Hurting you wouldn't help the boys. They love you, Holden. In 3 months, you've become essential to their lives. I love them too, Holden said, his voice rough with emotion. More than I knew I could love anyone. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sloane said quietly, you've really changed. I didn't think you could, but you have. I had to, Holden replied. They deserve better than the man I was. We all deserved better than the man you were, Sloane said. But I'm glad you're becoming the man you should have been. For months disaster struck. Tessa's divorce filing became aggressive. Her attorney made claims that Holden had been unfaithful during their marriage, that he'd known about the triplets and hidden them. None of it was true, but the allegations made headlines. Tech executive's secret life exposed. The articles read, wife claims years of deception. Holden was furious, but his attorney Harold advised restraint. We'll address everything in court with evidence. Don't engage publicly. But the stories affected the boys. Other children at preschool started asking questions. Why is your daddy in the news? Why did your daddy lie? Beckett came home asking Sloane, did daddy lie about us? No, sweetheart, Sloane assured him. Daddy told the truth. Some people are confused, but daddy loves you very much. When Holden arrived for his next visit, Sloane pulled him aside. We need to talk. She explained what was happening at school. The questions, the confusion, the way other parents were looking at her boys. I'll fix this, Holden said immediately. I'll make a statement. Clear the record. That might make it worse, Sloane said. More attention on them. Then what do I do? Holden asked desperately. I can't have them thinking I'm ashamed of them or that I lied. You sit down with them and tell them the truth, Sloane said. Age appropriately, but the truth. That there are people saying unkind things. But those things aren't true. That you love them and you're proud to be their father. So Holden sat with 3 small boys and had one of the hardest conversations of his life. Some people are saying mean things about me on TV and in newspapers, he explained. They're saying I knew about you and hid you, or that I don't really love you. Those things aren't true. Why would they say that? Griffin asked, his analytical mind struggling with the concept. Because grown-ups sometimes don't understand things, and when they don't understand, they make up stories, Holden said. But here's the truth. I love you three more than anything in the world. I didn't know about you for a long time, but as soon as I found out, I wanted to be your daddy. And I'm proud to be your daddy. Are you sad people are mean? Callum asked, his empathetic heart showing. A little, Holden admitted. But I'm much happier that I have you than I am sad about mean people. Beckett, ever practical, announced, if anyone says mean things about our daddy, I'll tell them they're wrong. Thank you, buddy, Holden said, pulling all three boys into a hug. You three are the best things that ever happened to me. The divorce from Tessa was finalized 2 weeks later. She got the house, a substantial financial settlement, and primary custody of their unborn son with generous visitation for Holden once the baby was born. Holden signed everything without contest. Your soon-to-be ex-wife is walking away with nearly $5 million, Harold pointed out. We could fight some of these terms. I don't care about the money, Holden said. I care about moving forward, about being free to focus on the boys. And the baby? Harold asked. Tessa's due in 3 months. That baby is my responsibility too, Holden acknowledged. When he's born, I'll be there. I'll be the father I should have been to the triplets from the start. As autumn turned to winter, Holden's visits increased to include overnight stays. The first night all three boys slept at his apartment was chaotic. Bedtime routines, middle-of-the-night wake-ups, early morning energy. But when Holden returned them to Sloane the next day, exhausted but happy, she smiled. Welcome to full-time parenting, she said. Population? Overwhelmed. How did you do this alone for 3 years? Holden asked, genuine awe in his voice. 1 day at a time, Sloane replied. And lots of coffee. The boys started calling Holden's apartment their other house. They kept clothes there, toys there, had their own routines there. Holden learned to cook simple meals they'd eat. He learned the specific nighttime rituals each boy needed. Griffin required 3 stories. Callum needed his elephant and a nightlight. Beckett insisted on checking that all the doors were locked. In November, Holden brought the boys to Seattle to meet his parents. Patricia cried when she saw them in person for the first time. Richard, normally stoic, got misty-eyed when Griffin showed him a drawing he'd made of their family tree. This is Grandma and Grandpa in Seattle, Griffin explained, pointing to his careful artwork. And this is Grandma and Grandpa here. That's Mama and Daddy. And this is me and Beckett and Callum. That's beautiful, Richard said, his voice thick. Can I keep this? I made it for you, Griffin said proudly. The weekend in Seattle was healing for everyone. Patricia and Richard got to know their grandsons. The boys experienced snow for the first time, and Holden saw his parents in a new light, as grandparents who were generous and loving in ways they hadn't quite been as parents. On the flight home, with 3 tired boys sleeping in their seats, Holden thought about how much had changed in 6 months. He'd lost a wife, a job position, millions of dollars, and his carefully constructed perfect life. And he'd gained everything that actually mattered. 3 sons who loved him. A co-parenting relationship with Sloane that was built on mutual respect. Purpose and meaning beyond business metrics. December arrived with its complicated emotions. Last year, Holden had hosted that disastrous baby shower. This year, everything was different. What are you doing for Christmas? Sloane asked during a handoff at her house. I hadn't thought about it, Holden admitted. Tessa and I always hosted this big party. But obviously that's not happening. My parents invited me to Seattle. What about the boys? Sloane asked. What about them? Do you want to spend Christmas with them? The question surprised him. You'd share Christmas? Sloane smiled. Holden, you're their father. Of course you should be part of their Christmas. She paused. Actually, I was thinking, what if you came here? Christmas morning with the boys? My parents will be here, my sister Kennedy. Nothing fancy, just family. Family. The word settled warm in Holden's chest. I'd love that. Thank you. Christmas morning arrived cold and bright. Holden drove to Sloane's house at 7 a.m., his car full of carefully chosen presents. He'd agonized over each gift, wanting them to be meaningful rather than expensive. The boys were already awake, buzzing with excitement in their matching pajamas. Daddy, Santa came. Look at all the presents. The morning was chaotic and perfect. wrapping paper everywhere, coffee for the adults, cinnamon rolls that Sloane's mother had made. The boys showing Holden every single gift, even the ones from Santa. Holden watched Sloane with her family, her easy laughter with her sister, the gentle way she guided the boys toward gratitude and away from greed, the patience she showed when they got overwhelmed. She'd built this warm, loving environment. She'd created Christmas traditions and family bonds while healing from his betrayal. She was remarkable. After presents, the boys wanted to show Holden their favorite gifts. Beckett got a science kit for growing crystals. Griffin received books about space. Callum opened a large stuffed giraffe he immediately named Stretch. "These are perfect," each boy said about their gifts. "Thank you, Daddy." Later, while the boys played and Sloane's parents prepared lunch, Holden and Sloane found themselves alone in the kitchen. "Thank you for including me today," Holden said. "This means everything." "They're your sons," Sloane replied. "You belong here." Still, Holden pressed. "After everything, you could have made this difficult. You've been generous beyond what I deserve." Sloane set down the dish she was drying. "I decided something, Holden. After the divorce, after I found out I was pregnant, I was angry, furious. I wanted you to hurt like I was hurting." "That would have been justified," Holden said. "Maybe," Sloane agreed. "But then the boys were born, and I was so busy surviving that I didn't have energy for anger anymore. And as they grew, I realized something. My anger would only hurt them. They deserved better than a mother filled with bitterness. So you let it go." "I chose to let it go," Sloane corrected. "For them. And eventually for me. Because I discovered that forgiveness isn't about the person who hurt you. It's about freeing yourself from carrying that weight." "Have you forgiven me?" Holden asked quietly. "I'm working on it," Sloane said honestly. "Some days are easier than others. But yes, I think I have." "You're not the man who left me, Holden. You've proven that over these past months." "I want to be better," Holden said. "Every day I want to be better. For them, but also because it's the right thing." "That's all any of us can do," Sloane said. "Try to be better than we were yesterday." In January, Holden made a major decision. He officially resigned from his CEO position at the firm rather than returning from leave. He took a consulting role that gave him flexibility and purpose without the 70-hour weeks. With the extra time, he became fully integrated into the boys' lives. He attended every preschool event. He was there for doctor's appointments. When Beckett had a minor accident at the playground requiring stitches, Holden was the one who rushed to the emergency room, held his son's hand through the procedure, and stayed with him until Sloane could get there. "You didn't have to stay," Sloane said when she arrived. "I know you had that meeting." "I canceled it," Holden said simply. "He needed me." In February, the boys turned 4. They wanted a party at a children's science museum. Holden and Sloane planned it together, splitting responsibilities naturally. Guest list, food, decorations. They moved around each other with unexpected ease. At the party, surrounded by preschool friends and family, someone asked Beckett who the adults were. "That's Mama and Daddy," Beckett explained proudly. "They take care of us together." Together. It was true. They were a team now, co-parenting with respect and cooperation. During the cake ceremony, with all 3 boys trying to blow out candles simultaneously, Holden stood next to Sloane. Their shoulders touched. Felt natural, comfortable. "Thank you," Holden said quietly. "For what?" "For this. For them. For giving me a chance to be their father." Holden paused. "I know I missed their first 3 birthdays. I can never get those back. But I'm grateful for every birthday from here forward." "You've earned it," Sloane said. "You show up, Holden. You put them first. That's all I ever wanted." Later, after guests left and the boys crashed on a museum bench from sugar and excitement, Holden helped Sloane clean up. "I have news," Sloane said. "I got offered a position at Stanford." Full professor with my own research lab. Sloan, that's incredible, Holden said, genuinely thrilled. Congratulations. It's going to mean longer hours, Sloan continued. More travel sometimes for conferences and fieldwork. Whatever you need, Holden said immediately. I can adjust my schedule, take the boys more often, hire help if you need it. Sloan looked at him searchingly. Just like that? You'd completely rearrange everything? Just like that, Holden confirmed. This is your dream job, Sloan. You've worked incredibly hard for this. The boys and I will make it work. Do you remember what you said when I got accepted to grad school? Sloan asked. Before we were married? Holden winced. I said a lot of stupid things back then. You said you didn't understand why I needed more education, Sloan recalled. That being a wife and mother should be fulfilling enough. I was an idiot. Yes, you were, Sloan agreed. But you're not anymore. She stepped closer. You know what I realized? I spent our entire marriage trying to be enough for you. Enough for your standards, your expectations, your vision of the perfect life. Sloan, Holden started. But now, she continued, I'm enough for me. I have my career, my children, my life. I don't need you to complete me. She paused. But I think I might want you anyway. Hope flared in Holden's chest. You do? Not the old you, Sloan clarified. Not the man who saw me as a reflection of his success. But this version, the one who takes first aid courses and reads bedtime stories and shows up early to birthday parties. She smiled. This version I could maybe love again. Maybe? Holden asked, hardly daring to breathe. Maybe, Sloan confirmed. If we take it slow. If we put the boys first. If you understand that I'm a different person now, and I won't sacrifice myself to make you happy. I would never ask you to, Holden said fervently. Sloan, you being fulfilled and happy and reaching your potential, that's what I want. I was so threatened by your strength before. Now it's what I admire most. That's a pretty answer, Sloan observed. But can you live it? Let me show you, Holden replied. Give me a chance to prove it. Sloan studied his face for a long moment. Okay, we can try. Slowly. As slow as you need, Holden agreed. She leaned up and kissed him. Brief, tentative, but real. Happy birthday to our boys. Happy birthday to our boys, Holden echoed, pulling her close. Across the museum, Kennedy watched them with a satisfied smile. About time, she muttered. The following months were a careful dance. Holden and Sloan started having coffee together after dropping the boys at preschool. Coffee became breakfast. Breakfast became the occasional dinner after the boys were asleep. They talked about everything. Their marriage and where it had failed. The fertility struggles from both perspectives. How they'd each grown in 5 years apart. What they wanted from life now. I'm not the same person you married, Sloan said during one dinner. I'm stronger, more independent. I know my worth now. Good, Holden replied. I don't want you to be who you were. I fell in love with who you are now. You don't know who I am now, Sloan challenged. Then let me learn, Holden said. I want to know everything about the woman who raised our sons. Who built a career while being an amazing mother. Who forgave me when she had every right not to. They set boundaries. No sleepovers with the boys present until they were sure about the relationship. No public displays that might confuse the children. They were testing the waters, seeing if the people they'd become could build something real. In April, Tessa gave birth to a son she named James. Holden was present for the birth, held his fourth son, and felt a complicated mix of love and regret. He would love this boy fiercely, would be the father he deserved. But his relationship with Tessa was permanently fractured. The boys were curious about their new half-brother. They visited the hospital, each holding baby James carefully. He's so small, Callum whispered, awed. You were this small once, Holden said. All three of you. Really? Beckett seemed skeptical. Really? I've seen pictures. Over the next months, Holden split his time between the triplets and baby James. It was complicated, but he managed. 2 weekends with the older boys, then a weekend with James. Weeknight visits distributed. He'd created a complex schedule, but he never missed a commitment. You're running yourself ragged, Wade observed during a rare lunch meeting. I'm being a father, Holden corrected. To 4 sons. It's a lot, but it's what I signed up for. By summer, Sloane and Holden's relationship had deepened. They still hadn't told the boys officially, but the boys were intuitive. "Are you and Mama dating?" Griffin asked one day with typical directness. "Why do you ask?" Holden responded. "Because you smile at each other the same way other kids' parents who are married smile," Griffin explained. "Would that bother you?" Holden asked carefully. "If your mama and I were dating?" The three boys exchanged glances. Then Beckett shrugged. "We already have 2 houses. It would be easier if we just had one." Out of the mouths of babes. That night, Holden talked to Sloane. "They asked me if we were dating. What did you tell them?" "I asked if it would bother them," Holden said. "Beckett said it would be easier if we just had one house." Sloane laughed. "Leave it to Beckett to be practical." But seriously, Holden pressed. "What are we doing here, Sloane? What is this?" Sloane took his hand. "I think we're building something new. Not trying to recapture what we had before, but creating something different. Better." "I love you," Holden said. "I need you to know that. Not the memory of you, but the actual you. The brilliant, strong, amazing woman you are now." "I love you too," Sloane admitted. "I didn't want to. I tried not to. But watching you with the boys, seeing the man you've become, I couldn't help it." "So what now?" Holden asked. "Now we keep taking it slow," Sloane said. "We keep putting the boys first. We keep building trust. And maybe, eventually, we see where this goes." In September, the boys started kindergarten at Westbrook Academy. Holden and Sloane attended the first day together, taking photos of 3 nervous boys in matching backpacks. Throughout the fall, they navigated kindergarten together. Parent-teacher conferences, school events, homework routines. They functioned as a unit, making decisions together, supporting each other. One October evening, after tucking the boys into bed at Sloane's house, Holden found himself reluctant to leave. "Stay," Sloane said simply. "Are you sure? The boys will have questions. Then we'll answer them," Sloane replied. "We're together, Holden. We might as well stop pretending we're not." So Holden stayed. And when 3 boys found him at the breakfast table the next morning, Beckett just said, "Good, you're here for pancakes." By November, they'd established a new normal. Holden spent most nights at Sloane's house. They were talking about him selling his apartment and officially moving in, creating one household for the boys instead of 2. "I never thought we'd be here," Sloane admitted one night after the boys were asleep. "A year and a half ago, you showed up at your baby shower and found out you had sons. Now we're talking about living together again. Is it crazy?" Holden asked. "Probably," Sloane said. "But it's also right. We're not the same people we were. This isn't the same relationship." "It's better," Holden said. "It is," Sloane agreed. In December, Holden made it official. He sold his apartment and moved into Sloane's townhouse. They converted the garage into a master suite, giving themselves privacy while keeping the boys' rooms upstairs. The boys were ecstatic. "Now we only have one house," Beckett announced with satisfaction. Christmas came around again, a stark contrast to the previous year. Instead of a baby shower turned disaster, Holden woke up in Sloane's bed, went downstairs to 3 excited boys, and spent the morning opening presents as a family. "Your mother called," Sloane said at one point. "She wants to know if we're all coming to Seattle for New Year's." "Are we?" Holden asked. "Do you want to?" "I want to be wherever you and the boys are," Holden said simply. "Then Seattle it is," Sloane decided. That afternoon, while the boys played with new toys and Sloane's parents watched them, Holden and Sloane took a walk around the neighborhood. "I have something for you," Holden said. He handed her a small box. Sloane opened it to find a simple silver necklace with 4 small stones. Birthstones. 3 for the boys, 1 for baby James. "It's beautiful," Sloane said. "I wanted you to have something that represents our whole family," Holden explained. "All 4 boys." Sloane's eyes filled with tears. "You included James." "He's my son too," Holden said. "I know he's not yours, but he's part of this complicated family we're building." Sloane kissed him. This is why I fell in love with you again. This growth, this thoughtfulness. They walked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Holden stopped. I have something else to say, he began. I know we're taking things slow. I know we're rebuilding trust. But I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you and our boys. He took a breath. I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. But I'm telling you that when you're ready, when you feel like we've built something strong enough, I'll ask. And I'll spend every day until then proving that I'm worthy of your yes. Sloane smiled through tears. That's the best non-proposal I've ever heard. As they walked back to the house, Holden thought about the journey of the past 18 months. From the devastating revelation at the baby shower to this moment of peace and love and family. He'd lost everything he thought mattered and gained everything that actually did. The boys ran to greet them when they returned, all talking at once about their new toys. Daddy, watch this. Mama, look what I built. Can we have hot chocolate? Holden looked at Sloane over their sons' heads. She smiled, and in that smile was everything. Forgiveness, love, hope, future. Yes, Holden told the boys. We can have hot chocolate. All of us together. And that, Holden realized, was what he'd been searching for all along. Not perfection but presence. Not image but substance. Not control but connection. He'd taken the longest, hardest path to get here. He'd hurt people, made terrible choices, missed 3 years of his sons' lives. But he'd also learned, grown, changed. He'd become the father his boys deserved and the partner Sloane needed. The story didn't have a neat ending tied up with a bow. Tessa would always be part of their lives through James. The pain of those lost years would never completely fade. Co-parenting 4 sons between 2 households would always be complicated. But as Holden sat in the kitchen that had become home, making hot chocolate for 3 chattering boys, while the woman he loved smiled at him from across the room, he knew something with absolute certainty. This messy, imperfect, hard-won family was the greatest achievement of his life. And he would spend every day from here forward being worthy of it. If you made it all the way to the end of this journey with me, I want to hear from you. What did this story teach you? Drop a comment and let me know. If you've ever been underestimated or made to feel like you weren't enough, type I am enough in the comments. If you believe people can truly change when they do the hard work, type second chances. If you think Holden got exactly what he deserved at that baby shower, type karma. And wherever you're watching from, let me know your city, or just type I'm with you Mr. Hearthline, so I know you stayed with this story all the way through. Here's what I want you to remember from Holden and Sloane's story. Your worth is not determined by someone else's inability to see it. Sloane didn't need Holden to validate her. She built a brilliant life, raised 3 incredible children, and achieved her professional dreams without him. When he finally grew up enough to deserve a second chance, she gave it to him not because she needed him, but because she chose him. That's real power. Second chances aren't given freely. They're earned through consistent action, not pretty words. Holden didn't win Sloane back with flowers or apologies. He won her back by showing up every single time for their sons. By putting their needs before his ego. By doing the painful work of actually changing who he was as a person. The consequences of our choices don't disappear just because we didn't intend them. Holden didn't mean to abandon his sons. He genuinely had no idea they existed. But his choice to never look back, to never check on Sloane after their divorce, that created 3 years of absence he can never recover. Good intentions don't erase the impact of our actions. Real success isn't measured by your bank account, your job title, or your perfect image. It's measured by the people who love you and the love you give back. Holden had millions of dollars, a CEO position, a mansion, and a perfect new wife. And he was empty. Now he has a modest townhouse, a consulting job, a complicated family situation, and he's fuller than he's ever been. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing. It means refusing to let someone else's mistakes define your life. Sloane forgave Holden not for his benefit, but for her own peace and her son's well-being. She didn't pretend what he did was okay. She just refused to carry the weight of anger forever. Children don't need perfect parents. They need present parents who try their best and keep showing up even when it's hard. The triplets don't care that Holden missed their first 3 years or that their family looks different from other families. They care that Daddy shows up for pancakes, reads them bedtime stories, and bandages their scraped knees. Love isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about becoming the right person for the one you love. Holden and Sloane didn't work the first time because Holden was focused on taking on what Sloane could give him. They work now because he learned how to give, how to support her dreams, how to love her as a whole person rather than a role she was supposed to fill. And maybe most importantly, it's never too late to change, to grow, to become better than you were. Holden was cruel, selfish, and emotionally immature. He hurt people deeply, but he did the work to change. Real, painful, consistent work. Therapy, self-reflection, accountability. And because he truly changed, he got a second chance at the family he thought he'd lost forever. So if you're watching this and you've been hurt like Sloane was hurt, know that your strength and resilience are your greatest assets. You don't need someone else to complete you. Build your own beautiful life, and if someone wants to be part of it, they'll have to earn that privilege. If you're watching this and you've made mistakes like Holden made mistakes, know that change is possible, but only if you're willing to do the hard work. Actions speak louder than words. Consistency matters more than intention. Show up. Keep showing up. Prove through your behavior that you've changed. And if you're watching this simply because you love a good story about karma, growth, and redemption, then you're in the right place. Because that's what we do here at Mr. Hearthline Stories. We tell stories that don't just entertain, they transform. If the story moved you, if it made you think or feel or see something differently, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Someone who's been made to feel like they're not enough. Someone who's trying to change and needs encouragement. Someone who loves a good story with heart. And subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Because every single week we're bringing you stories like this. Stories about real human struggles and triumphs. About love and loss and second chances. About the complicated, messy, beautiful reality of being human. Remember, life doesn't give you the people you want. It gives you the people you need to help you grow, to learn, to become who you're meant to be. Sometimes the person who hurts you the most teaches you the most important lessons. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you leads you to the best thing that could have happened. Holden thought losing Sloane was the end of his story, but it was actually the beginning. The beginning of becoming a real father to 4 sons. The beginning of understanding what actually matters in life. The beginning of building something real instead of something perfect. Your story isn't over either. No matter what you've been through, what mistakes you've made, what pain you've suffered, you're still writing your story. And the next chapter can be different if you choose to make it so. I'm Mr. Hearthline, and I'll see you in the next story. Until then, remember this. You are enough. You are worthy. And your best days might still be ahead of you.